The alien exchange student. Leary stepped out of the silver shuttle, her boots softly touching the Earth's soil for the first time. She looked around with wide, glowing eyes, her blue skin shining gently under the sun. Her long, silvery hair floated, slightly, as if gravity didn't fully agree with her. She had come from a peaceful planet named Nivora, far across the stars. On her world, emotions were shared through energy links, and reproduction was done in labs through gene matching. There were no parents, no romantic love, no physical closeness like humans had. That's why she was chosen. To learn, observe, and report on human relationships. "Welcome to Earth," said the tall man in a black suit. "This is Jake. He's your host." Jake, a 22-year-old human student with messy hair and kind brown eyes, gave her a nervous smile. Hey, I guess I'll be showing you around." Leary tilted her head. "You are young male of Earth, healthy, tall. Good choice." Jake blinked. Thanks?" From that very moment, he knew this was going to be a very strange experience. Jake's house was small but warm. Leary looked at everything like it was magical. She touched the toaster, stared at the fridge, and poked the microwave. Then she opened the bathroom door and just stood there. "This is where you cleanse your body?" she asked, pointing to the shower. "Yeah," Jake said. "Don't worry, I'll give you privacy when you use it. But I want to watch you use it first," she said innocently. "To learn properly." Jake's face turned red. "Nope, that's not how we do things here." Leary blinked, confused. "But why?" He quickly closed the door. The next day, Jake took Leary to his university. Everyone stared at her glowing skin and shimmering outfit. Some people whispered, others took pictures, but Leary didn't notice. She was too busy asking questions. "Why are human females covered on the upper body but males are not when swimming?" she asked out loud. Jake groaned. "Leary, not now." She kept going. "Why do couples hold hands in public? Is this part of mating behavior?" People started laughing. Jake pulled her away. "You really can't just say stuff like that here?" "But I need answers," she said seriously. "I'm here to understand human reproduction. I was told it is complex." Jake sighed. "Yeah, well, it's not something we talk about in the cafeteria." At home that evening, Leary sat on the floor surrounded by notes. "Your species uses something called dating apps to find mating partners?" she asked. Jake chuckled. "Some do, yeah. And then you go to food places to test emotional bond before physical union?" "That's actually not a bad way of putting it." Leary nodded. "Fascinating. On my planet, if genes match, you are paired. There is no waiting, no kissing, no confusion." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Kissing is part of the fun, Leary." She looked at him like he was from another galaxy. Technically, he was. Later that night, Jake sat on the couch watching a sci-fi movie. Leary sat beside him, staring at the screen. "Are these actors simulating reproduction?" she asked as a romantic scene played. Kind of. "Is this how it looks? Is this how it feels?" Jake cleared his throat. "Depends." Leary leaned closer. "Jake, may I make a request?" He looked at her. "Sure." "I wish to observe human reproduction in real time." Jake choked on his soda. "What?" "For research," she said calmly. "I believe a live demonstration is necessary." "You are male. I am female. This should work, yes?" Jake jumped up. "Leary, that's not how we do things here." She looked disappointed. "Oh, I have misunderstood again." Jake sat back down slowly. "Look, it's not just about matching body parts. It's about feelings, trust, comfort. It's not science to us. It's emotion." Leary stared at the floor for a moment. "That is difficult for me to understand. But I want to." As the stars shone outside the window, Leary whispered, "On Nivora, we never choose. We are assigned. But you humans, you choose who to love." Jake smiled. "Yeah, and that's the scary and beautiful part." She turned her eyes to him, glowing softly. "Then maybe I must learn how to choose." Jake jumped. He slipped a little in the shower but caught himself just in time. "Leary? What are you doing?" he shouted, pulling the curtain halfway shut. Leary stood there completely calm, holding a notepad and a pen. Her silver blue eyes were wide, but curious, not shy. Her long hair was tied back with a glowing ribbon, and her translator device blinked quietly on her chest. "I heard strange sounds. I feared you were injured. Then I realized you were just rubbing yourself with foamy substances. I have questions." Jake groaned and reached for a towel. "You can't just walk in when someone's showering." "But I knocked," Leary replied seriously. "I didn't answer." "On my planet," she said, tilting her head, "silence means permission." Jake wrapped the towel around himself and stepped out, still dripping. "Not here. Here it means stay out." Leary took notes. "Understood. New human custom. Silence equals denial in hygiene zones." "Interesting." Back in the living room, Jake was drying his hair while Leary sat cross-legged on the couch, reviewing her notes. "I don't understand something," she said suddenly. "Your body changes in the shower. Why?" Jake almost dropped his towel. "What do you mean?" "Your skin became flushed, your structure adjusted." He turned red. "Leary, that's private. You don't just talk about that stuff." "But I saw it. I must ask. It is for science." Jake buried his face in his hands. "Oh God." Leary paused. "Your body seems to respond to heat, touch, and being observed?" Jake looked up. "Are you trying to understand how human attraction works?" "Yes," she said proudly. "You see, on Nivora, we do not have physical intimacy. Our reproduction is gene-based and managed by machines. Touch is not romantic. But here, your bodies speak emotions." Jake sighed. "Yeah, and sometimes they say embarrassing things." Leary smiled gently. "Then I must learn to listen better." Later that evening, Leary sat on Jake's bed while he cleaned up the bathroom. When he returned, she looked at him seriously. "I have downloaded many human mating rituals," she said. Jake stopped. "Wait, what?" "I searched online. There are thousands of videos." He blinked. "Leary, please tell me you didn't watch those videos." She nodded. "I saw some very aggressive bonding patterns. Do you usually scream during reproduction?" Jake nearly choked. "What the hell did you watch?" "I do not understand the use of whipped cream either. Is it always necessary?" Jake turned pale. "No, that's not normal." Leary leaned forward. "Then teach me the correct way." He backed up. "No way. Leary, we don't teach that casually. It's not like explaining math. It's personal, deep, emotional." "But emotions confuse me," she said. "I want to feel what you feel. I want to understand this human warmth." Jake looked at her glowing face, her soft voice, and those honest alien eyes. She wasn't joking. She wasn't teasing. She meant it. He sat beside her. "Leary, there are things about humans you won't find in a file or a video. Things you learn over time. It's not just about bodies. It's about trust, about caring, about choosing someone with your heart, not your eyes." She stared at him, silent for once. Then she whispered, "On Nivora, we don't choose, but I think I want to choose." Jake's heart skipped a beat. A long pause filled the room. Then Leary looked down at her notepad again. Question 27. Is reproduction better with love? Jake nodded. "Yeah, a lot better." She wrote that down. Suddenly, a beeping sound came from her translator. A voice echoed in her ear from her home planet. "Report due in 48 Earth hours. Have you collected direct data on human bonding behavior?" Leary looked up. Slowly, she turned to Jake, and she smiled. Professor Alden had just asked a normal question about the circulatory system, when Leary, seated calmly in the middle of the classroom, raised her hand and asked in her sweet, serious voice, "Excuse me, where exactly do humans insert the reproduction? Organ? I still don't understand the angle." Every pen in the room froze. Jake felt like the oxygen had been sucked out of the lecture hall. 20 students turned their heads toward Leary. Professor Alden blinked twice, dropped his chalk, and muttered, that's not part of today's lesson." Leary looked disappointed. "But it is connected. You said earlier that during intimacy, the human heart rate increases and the blood rushes. This is related to biology, is it not?" The class erupted into laughter. Jake, sitting beside her, buried his face in his textbook. "Please stop talking," he whispered. "But I'm learning," Leary replied proudly. "Humans are very emotional about mating. I want to be respectful, so I must ask." Someone from the back shouted, "Ask her if she's single." Leary turned. "I do not understand. Am I not one person? Of course I am single." Another wave of laughter rolled through the room. After class, Jake pulled her aside. "You cannot ask stuff like that in public," Leary frowned. "But isn't this a place of learning?" "Yes, but that's not—" "You know what? Never mind." She tilted her head. "Are you embarrassed because I asked about your mating function?" Jake turned red again. "Stop saying it like that." They walked through campus together. Birds chirped, students passed by, and Leary continued flipping through her notes. "I'm trying to be scientific," she explained. "But human mating is not like chemistry or physics. It's chaos." Jake laughed. "That's the most accurate thing you've said." Leary looked thoughtful. "On Navora we value harmony, but here I see couples fight, kiss, cry, then love again. It's like war, followed by peace, followed by dessert." Jake stopped. "That's oddly poetic." She looked at him, hopeful. "Does that mean I'm understanding better?" "Maybe," Jake said. "Or maybe you're just getting better at confusing me." Later that day, the university held a workshop about cross-cultural communication. It was meant for international students, but Leary insisted on attending. Halfway through the session, the instructor asked everyone to share something surprising about Earth. Leary stood up confidently and said, "Yes, I have learned that human males have a soft organ that becomes hard during attraction. Also, you require foreplay to activate emotional connection. This is new information for my people." Dead silence. Then someone coughed. Then someone dropped their drink. Then someone clapped. Jake nearly melted into his chair. Back home, Jake sat on the porch, drinking soda and staring at the sky. Leary joined him with a blanket around her shoulders. "I embarrass you again?" she asked softly. He looked at her. "A little, but also, no, you're just being you." She smiled. "I only want to learn, but maybe I asked the wrong questions." Jake shook his head. "No, Leary. You're asking honest questions. That's not wrong. People just aren't used to honesty about personal stuff." She thought about that. "In that case, may I ask you a personal question now?" Jake looked nervous. Sure?" She leaned closer. "When humans fall in love, how do they know it is real?" He froze. "Wow. That's not a simple question." She waited patiently. Jake finally answered, "I think it's when you want someone in your life, even if things get messy, even if they embarrass you in front of the whole school, you still want them around." Leary's eyes glowed a little brighter. "Then, I think I like you, Jake." His heart skipped a beat. She added quickly, "For science, of course." Jake laughed. "Of course." The night was quiet. Moonlight spilled across Jake's bedroom floor. Leary sat at the edge of his bed, her long fingers curled tightly around a pillow. Then in a soft and serious voice, she asked, "Jake, can I try it with you? Just once, for research." Jake froze. He had just come back from brushing his teeth, ready to lie down and sleep. But now, sleep felt impossible. "Wait, what did you just say?" he asked, his heart suddenly racing. Leary turned to face him, her glowing eyes calm. "I said I would like to experience human reproduction, and I would prefer to try it with someone I trust. That is you." Jake sat down slowly, trying to breathe. "I thought we talked about this." he said carefully. Leary nodded. We did. You told me it is more than physical. You said emotions matter. Exactly, Jake said. That's why you can't just try it like a science project. But emotions are science, Leary replied. Your heartbeat changes, your skin becomes warm, your brain produces chemicals. All of this can be measured. Why is that not science? Jake looked at her, this beautiful, strange alien girl from another world, so smart, so curious, and so innocent. Because, he said softly, sometimes the best parts of being human can't be measured. Leary sat in silence for a long time. The only sound in the room was the faint hum of her translator device. Finally, she spoke. I want to understand why humans do this only with someone special, she said. You say it's about love, but how do you feel it? Jake looked at her. That's not easy to explain. Try, she said. He took a deep breath. Okay. Love is when you think about someone even when they're not around. It's when their happiness becomes more important than your own. It's not about touching their body. It's about wanting to protect their heart. Leary blinked. Slowly, she nodded. On my planet, we do not protect hearts. We protect knowledge. Jake smiled. Well, maybe here. Hearts matter more than data. She looked down at her hands. Her voice dropped lower. Then I must ask. A new question, not for science, but for me. Jake waited. Leary looked up again and her eyes shimmered. Would you choose me? If love is a choice and not a formula, would you choose me? The air in the room seemed to stand still. Jake opened his mouth, but nothing came out. His mind raced. She wasn't just asking for an answer. She was offering something real, something fragile. I don't know yet, he said honestly. But I know I care about you. I want to understand you. I want you here, with me. Leary's lips parted in a quiet smile. Then that is enough. A few moments later, she stood up. I will not ask again, she said gently. Because now I understand. This act is not for the curious. It is for the chosen. She turned to leave the room, but Jake stood up, stopping her. Wait, he said. You don't have to go. She looked at him. You can stay, he said. Just sit with me. Talk to me. That's how love starts, here on Earth. She nodded and returned to sit beside him. This time she didn't bring a notepad. She brought only herself. The two sat in silence, watching the stars from the bedroom window. Then Leary whispered, If we ever choose together, I want it to be when the stars look like this. Jake smiled. That's a good choice. It was late at night. Leary sat quietly in Jake's room. He had fallen asleep on the couch after watching a movie. His chest rose and fell gently. Leary watched him, studying the calmness of his face, the strange softness of human sleep. She pulled out her small silver device, a Niverin research orb. It floated silently above her palm, blinking with soft blue light. I will now record my findings, she whispered. This report is for Nevera Central Archive only. Level 5 clearance, do not share. The orb beeped once. Recording started. Leary spoke softly, carefully. Report entry 42. Subject, human bonding. I have begun to understand the emotional structure that humans call love. It is not chemical only. It is something more. She looked out the window. When I am near the male named Jake, my thoughts change. My body does not react with fear. I feel warmth. I feel safe. I feel chosen. I believe this is what humans call affection. She paused. Yesterday, I asked him to perform the mating act with me. He refused, not because he dislikes me, but because I did not understand the meaning. I understand now. For humans, it is not about study. It is about trust, and I want to earn his trust. Her voice became softer. If I ever return to Nevora, I will miss him. She tapped the orb. End report. The orb blinked green, ready to send the encrypted message back to her planet. Leary pressed send. What she didn't know was that her translator device was still connected to Earth's global internet via Jake's Wi-Fi. And her research orb, it wasn't set to private transmission, it was set to public broadcast. The file, video, voice, and even partial thoughts was sent, not just to Navora, but to over 2,000 alien satellites, 14 trade stations, 6 learning hubs, and, unfortunately, TikTok. The next morning, Jake was brushing his teeth when his phone buzzed. Then it buzzed again and again and again, ping, ping, ping. He opened it, dozens of notifications, messages, reactions, alien emojis, galactic comments. Human male emotionally bonds with science girl. Reproduction versus romance, the great Earth debate. Who is this Jake, and where can I get one? Jake blinked. What is this? He clicked on a video. There was Leary, glowing, graceful, talking softly about him, about their bond, about their night together. He choked on his toothpaste. Leary! Leary came running, holding her tablet. I was just informed by a Nivoran drone that my research was leaked. Jake held up his phone. Leaked! Try viral. You just became a love icon across 12 systems. Leary's eyes widened. Oh no. Jake was pacing. Why did you record that? And why did you send it? I wanted to keep my memories, she said honestly. To remember the feeling. He stared at her. She looked down, ashamed. I didn't mean to cause harm. Jake exhaled. He couldn't stay mad. Her intentions were pure. Her heart was innocent. But the galaxy now thought they were lovers. That afternoon, a message came through on the house's hollow screen. It was the Galactic Ethics Council. A giant glowing being with 6 eyes appeared and said, Subject Leary of Navora, you have violated scientific protocol. Personal feelings have compromised your mission. You are ordered to return for debrief. Jake stood beside her. She's not just a subject, he said loudly. She's a person. She's learning. And she made a mistake, not a crime. Leary looked at him, touched. The council paused. Then said, We will consider your words, but emotional interference with alien species is dangerous. The screen went dark. Leary turned to Jake. They may take me back. Jake shook his head. We won't let them. Earth isn't afraid of love or learning. She stepped closer. You defended me. Again, he smiled. Get used to it. She held his hand, not for data, not for research, but because she wanted to. Beneath a quiet sky filled with stars, Leary knelt down on one knee, Nivoran style, and extended a glowing crystal ring toward Jake. Her voice trembled slightly as she said, I have chosen you, human. Will you accept a life bond with me? Jake froze. His heart thudded in his chest. The air around him felt heavy, still. He stared at the alien girl kneeling before him, her glowing eyes locked with his. Leary, what are you doing? He asked, barely able to speak. Leary held the ring higher. It pulsed with soft blue light reacting to her touch. This is a life bond gem, she explained. On Navora, this is our version of a proposal. I offer it only once. If you accept it, we are joined. For life. Jake blinked. Life? She nodded. Yes. No experiments, no pretending, no reports. Just us. I want it to be real. Earlier that day, the Galactic Ethics Council had sent another message. Return immediately. If you do not, your citizenship will be revoked, and your research will be deleted. Leary had stood silently, her face unreadable. Then she looked at Jake and whispered, I don't want to go. Jake had clenched his fists. Then don't. But defying her people meant exile. It meant giving up everything, her home, her identity, her future as a scholar. Unless she created a new future here. With him. Now, under the stars, Leary waited for his answer. I don't need to go back to Nivora, she said softly, because I've found what I was searching for. Jake ran a hand through his hair. Leary, this is huge. You're talking about forever. Do you even know what that means? You've been here, what, a few weeks? I may not have full knowledge, she said, but I have full intention. On my planet, love is chosen once. I choose you. Jake looked into her eyes. There was no calculation, no science, just feeling. Pure, honest alien feeling. He sat down in front of her so they were eye level. Leary, he said, when you first came here you didn't understand anything about humans. You asked awkward questions. You embarrassed me. You made me laugh. And somehow you made me feel seen. Her eyes shimmered. He continued, I don't know what our future looks like. I don't know how your people or mine will react. But I know I don't want a future without you. Leary held her breath. Jake reached out and placed his hand gently over the life bond gem. It glowed bright blue. She gasped. You accepted. He smiled. Yeah, I did. Suddenly, a glowing symbol appeared above them in the air, a projection from the gem. It spun slowly, releasing a soft chime. Life bond confirmed, said the gem in a calm voice. Earth-Nivora pairing initialized. Leary's translator buzzed. Her people were alerted. She looked at Jake. This will cause panic. Jake chuckled. Let them panic. The next morning, headlines across alien networks read, Earth-Human accepts alien proposal. Intergalactic bond official. Some called it madness, some called it dangerous, but many called it beautiful. Young aliens across systems began questioning the rules of assigned pairing. On Nivora, protests began, youth chanting, let us choose. Leary's one act had started a silent rebellion, and at the center of it was love. That evening, reporters from 3 planets and 2 moons arrived at Earth's spaceport. They demanded interviews. The Galactic Ethics Council called again. Even Earth's government asked questions. Jake and Leary ignored them all. They sat in the backyard, barefoot in the grass, holding hands and watching fireflies. Will it always be this crazy? Leary asked. Jake grinned. Probably. She looked at him. I'm okay with that. The galaxy watched. The council ordered. Reporters swarmed. Leary was told to leave Earth. Jake was told to let her go. But as starships moved into Earth's orbit to take her back, one human stood in front of them all and said, she stays, not as a visitor, but as my bonded one. The sky above Earth was no longer peaceful. Ships hovered like silver birds in the atmosphere, watching, waiting. Inside Jake's small house, Leary stood by the window. Her glowing eyes reflected the streaks of light across the sky. She was calm, on the outside. But inside, a storm raged. Her home planet had officially declared her rogue. A bond with a human was forbidden. It broke ancient traditions. Niveran law said she must return for questioning. If she refused, she would never be allowed back. She would lose everything. But when she looked at Jake sleeping lightly on the couch, she didn't feel afraid. She felt certain. That morning, the Galactic Ethics Council sent a hologram to Earth's United Command. Return subject Leary immediately. Earth is warned. Continued protection of the rogue Nivoran will be seen as an act of disrespect to the intergalactic protocol. Jake stood beside the transmission. He didn't wait. He stepped in front of the projector and said clearly, I don't care about your protocols. She's not your subject anymore. She's my partner, and she's staying. There was silence. On the line. Are you willing to face the consequences of sheltering her? The voice asked. Jake didn't flinch. I'm human. We don't run when it gets hard. They had 48 hours. That's how long before Niveran retrieval units arrived, but Earth wasn't quiet either. Jake's story had spread. Through human news, alien forums, even deep space pirate radio. Leary and Jake's bond had become a symbol of choice, of freedom, of emotion over protocol. Young Niverans began marching in protest. Couples from different species started speaking up. The phrase, "let us choose," became a chant across colonies and space stations. Leary watched all of this unfold on her screen, and her heart, once so logical, so quiet, felt full. That night, Leary sat with Jake under the stars. "I never thought one small mistake," she whispered, "would start a revolution." Jake smiled. "Sometimes the smallest things change everything." She leaned against him. "They'll come for me tomorrow." He nodded. "Let them." Leary looked up. "You don't have to stand with me. You could let me go and be safe." Jake turned to her. "I've been safe my whole life, but with you, I feel alive." She blinked, a tear forming in the corner of her glowing eye. "I don't want to be just a symbol," she said. Jake held her hand. "You're not. You're my Leary. Not a report, not a rebellion. Just you." The next day, the retrieval ship descended. The Earth sky darkened. Winds swirled. The ground shook slightly as the massive ship touched down outside Jake's small town. Soldiers in smooth black armor stepped out. They carried no weapons, but their presence was enough. Everyone stopped what they were doing. Leary stepped outside calmly, dressed in a simple Earth hoodie and jeans. Jake stood beside her, holding her hand. The lead officer, a tall Niveran with bright eyes and a sharp voice, stepped forward. "Leary of Nivora, by order of the council, you must return for interrogation. Come peacefully." Leary didn't move. Jake stepped in front of her. "She's not going." The officer narrowed his eyes. "You are interfering with an interstellar directive. She's not your experiment anymore. She's my bonded partner," Jake said firmly. "If you take her, I go too." The officer paused. Leary stepped forward. "You may take me, but if you do, know this. I will speak of what I felt here. I will spread it across your systems. I will not hide it." Another officer whispered to the leader, "If we take her by force, we risk igniting open protests." The leader hesitated. Then, slowly, he nodded. "You have made your position clear. Return will not be forced. For now." As the ship lifted off again, cheers erupted across Earth. And Nivora. The message was clear. Love was not illegal, not anymore. Weeks passed. The council never sent another order. Instead, quiet messages began to arrive, from young Nivorans, from humans, from other species. Messages of thanks, of hope, of questions. Jake and Leary became advisors to a new intergalactic emotion and culture project. The two of them began teaching, together, about communication between species, about love, about freedom of choice. One day, Jake brought Leary to a quiet hill just outside town. It was where they first watched stars together. He got down on one knee, the Earth way this time. He pulled out a small ring, not glowing, not alien. "Just a simple silver band. I know we already bonded your way," he said. "But this time, will you marry me the human way too?" Leary laughed, then cried, then nodded. "Yes. Yes, Jake. I choose you again." Their wedding wasn't grand. It wasn't broadcast. It was just a few friends, a sunset, and two hearts, one human, one alien, joined by choice. That night, Leary whispered, "I no longer wonder what love is. I feel it every day." Jake smiled, "And that's the only data that matters."